Good evening and welcome back. My most humble apologies. I am your host, Dr. Crocko. At the end of the day, it was an OBS failure, disconnected. Usually reconnects pretty fast, but for some reason something froze up. I apologize to everybody that was here. We had an awesome crowd. We had about 200 people watching. It's okay. What I will do is, I have part one. I am going to obviously do live part two right now. And then I will edit these both together and I will put them up as an upload so you guys can watch the whole thing straight through in case you miss it. Streamlabs OBS. I just have OBS. I just have OBS. I haven't done the Mac Streamlabs. I'm just scared to do it. So, very happy that everyone, sticks around and it's very supportive. A lot of donations had came through Super Chats and Streamlabs and one PayPal, so I really appreciate it. So I was going to come back to finish out the show. We had just got into Mel's Hole, so of course we had a lot more to get into. So I had to reboot my whole computer because usually that helps me out. For anybody new here, I am your host, Dr. Crocko. We're diving into the mysterious, the creepy, the conspiratorial, the governmental conspiracies, down to the bizarre. And we all just have a fun time over here where we all get together and get away from life's problems. During a pandemic, we need a place with a good community that just wants to have a little fun. So thank you guys all for coming back. I was going to wait a minute for people to make their way in, as if most people probably don't know we're going back on. If you want to do me a favor and share any tweets, I will pull up the tweet that I sent out saying we're back, and you guys can share this out for everybody. So I'm going to do this right now. Give me 2 seconds. I think I'm watching it with you guys. Look at that. Look at us back on the main page. So this tweet I'm about to give you, if you can retweet this, that'll be perfect. Awesome. Okay, that's all the spiel I have. I am your humble host, Dr. Crocko. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, my Twitter and Discord links are in the description. And if anybody wants to help out what we're doing here, hey, maybe we can get a computer that doesn't freeze up and shut down OBS every time we go on. Who knows? But if anybody wants to help out with the work we're doing, streamlabs.com/Crocko Show, paypal.me/Davey Crocko. I know, I wish it was called Dr. Crocko Spooky Sundays, but that was the official name of the channel, so that's what it's under Streamlabs on. Dun 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 dun.
Like a bell, like an empty bell. And that kind of gives you a glimpse. Now, whether or not the Earth itself is completely hollowed out inside, or whether or not they are just vast inner caverns that might be the size of whole continents, I'm not sure. But what I can tell you is that in ancient civilization, all over the globe, they have these hollow Earth stories.
In my research, I have discovered maps that show a lot of these deep underground bases, or also known as dumps. These bases are in locations where there appear to have been other openings deep under the earth. And how do I know this? Well, anybody can figure it out because we have access to the ground penetrating radar data. This data shows specific types of caverns and openings deep, deep beneath the earth, sometimes a mile deep. And what it appears when you look at some of these overlaying military tunnels, it seems as if they knew where they were at, so they actually tunneled to these actual locations, these ancient locations, and kind of made them into their path as they created their own grid.
Now, where we left off before was talking about a little thing called Mel's Hole. This was a phone call someone made into Coast to Coast with Art Bell. Guy's name is Mel Waters, a captivating character who is telling Mel about this mysterious hole that he thinks is a bottomless pit. Townsfolk throw things down this hole, they don't hear them hit the bottom. Now, other folks who stumbled across the site noticed an eerie sensation that would wash over them when they neared the pit. They also noted that birds and other creatures seemed to give the allegedly evil hole a wide berth, and that the rim of the pit was lined with the bones of small animals. Over the years, visitors would come and go, but none of them would make a mark quite as deep as the next owner of the property, a man named Mel Waters. He claimed he and his wife bought the property in 1993 and discovered the hole soon afterwards, and much like all of those that came before him, used it as a convenient, if not environmentally, rubbish bin. It wouldn't be long, however, before he became irresistibly drawn to this strange hollow. In particular, Waters became fascinated by its inexplicable inability to devour all that was thrown within. Well, so we've been here several years. We just take all of our trash and rubbish there, anything we have to get rid of, or anything that we need to dispose of, we take it and just throw it in the hole. Everyone's throwing their stuff in the hole. The people from around there just throw all their stuff down there. I mean, it's just going on for a long time. And I got to thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be awfully deep. So in the summer of 1996, he decided that his first experiment would to be and how to ascertain just how deep the crevice actually was, being by his own admission an avid marine angler. Waters and a plethora of high-test fishing line, so in an effort to discern the depth of the pit. Waters attached spool after spool to each other, but he was always thwarted in his attempts to find the base of the pit. He even took to tying a roll of lifesavers to the end of the line to see if there was water at the bottom, but the candy always returned topside, dry as a bone.
Yes, I am. First of all, Mel, thank you for answering. What are you doing up at this time of the morning?
Well, after I sent the fax, I'm living in town here now because we had a couple of our buildings out there cave in after the big snows that we had out here last month.
Oh, yes.
And so thereby goes some of the construction debris into the hole. So.
All right. When did you discover this hole?
Well, the hole has always been there. We've been out there for a couple of years now, and the hole has been there since we've been there. It's been there since the previous owner was there, and the previous owner there was quite elderly, and I'd say he was there for a good 30, 40 years before we moved in.
Wow.
And then
and so there's been a thing of throwing stuff down this hole for a long time.
It's been going on, for as long as the hole has been there, I assume.
When nobody knows that, I guess. All right. How do you pronounce the name of your town? Manastash?
Manastash.
Manastash.
Right.
That's right. Thank you.
Actually, I'm in, right now I'm in a little town called Ellensburg.
Oh, I know Ellensburg. All right.
You must know about a rodeo here then.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, so, we've been there for several years. And, we just take all of our trash, rubbish, anything we have that we have to get rid of, we take it, throw it in the hole. Everyone's throwing their stuff in the hole. The people from around there throw all the stuff in the hole. I mean, it's just been going on for a long time. Well, I got this thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be an awfully deep hole.
That's a good thing to consider, sure, as you throw stuff in it for decades, literally.
And so, I used to be I would say pretty close to a professional shark fisherman. So I had a couple of huge fishing reels, went out there and started letting the line down. I figure after one...
Did you weight the line?
Oh, yeah. There's, in fact, the original line is still down there. I've just been adding to the line and keeping track of how much line I have used. So I've not reeled it in.
How much weight is on it?
There's a 1 pound weight at the bottom of it.
1 pound weight, all
1
right.
pound weight. It's a triangular 1 pound weight.
Okay.
And so that's at the bottom of it at first.
So in other words, it would go down kind of like a plumb bob.
Exactly. In fact, I have it rigged across the center of it there, and it goes straight down from the center there. And occasionally I try to move the line there, but when you're moving that much line, you really can't do a whole lot with it. But it seems to, there seems to be, it's not resting against anything at this point here, and it continues to go down freely. And so when I was out there earlier, I'd let out a little bit more line. And
so you actually went out there tonight after I read this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Well, it's not too bad out here right now. It's only about 25 degrees, so it's not too cold.
Have you ever heard anything coming from any sounds or anything?
Well, the normal thing to do is kind of like yell into it there, to see an echo, and I've never heard an echo come out of that thing.
No.
So he would try many different tactics, and these calls are probably one of the most famous coast-to-coast calls that have ever been made. Now, there is a lot of them. It is hours and hours of calls throughout over 10 years. So we're going to play the choice bits from the first 1 or 2 calls. And the normal thing for him to do was kind of like yell into it, see if there was an echo. And he'd never heard an echo come out of that thing. And it's one of the first things I noticed about it. As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing. And they went back to the Suburban and hung out over there. If I try to bring them there on a leash, they'll just dig their feet. They do not want to go anywhere near the hole. As if the dearth of the echoes and whimpering guard dogs weren't creepy enough, according to Waters, there was a fellow who claimed that his dead dog had resurrected, a la Pet Sematary, after he had tossed the canine's remains in Devil Hole. In Waters' own words. Now this could be a absolutely, fantastical story, but one guy claims he threw his departed canine down the hole, and the guy that did it swears the dog actually came back to life. The tale of the resurrected dog was a rumor around town for years. Then in 1997, Waters sent a fax to who he thought at the time was the preeminent disseminator of paranormal information, Art Bell of Coast to Coast. And Bell and Waters discussed this mysterious hole.
At all. That's one of the first things I noticed about it. As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing, and I went back to the Suburban and hung out over there. So it was kind of if I try to bring them there on a leash, they'll just dig their feet in. They do not want to go anywhere near the hole. And so I don't know. It's just.
Well, you've got miles and miles of.
Yeah, I think. I'm measuring it by feet. I convert feet to yards, so I don't know how many miles that is. I assume it's a fair number of miles, though. So.
Well, 5,280 feet is a mile, so you really think you've got 80,000?
Yes, yeah. I get line in 5,000 yard spools, and so I've gone through that many.
Well, you have got a hole then that goes. Well, you can't say to the center of the earth, but you've got a hole that goes miles and miles and miles into the earth. I would think a university would be out there, boom, just like that.
Well, my wife does work for a local university here, and, we've been talking to them about it, and one of the things is they find it quite incredible that I've let that much line into the ground, but that's what I've been doing.
Now, one strange occurrence that happened. Waters was on his own property, en route to the Devil's Hole. Waters planned to continue his research when he was suddenly stopped by a pair of men identifying themselves as government agents. These agents, one in plain clothes and two in military regalia, informed him that there had been a plane crash nearby and that the area had been cordoned off. The plainclothes further stated that no one but the military personnel would be allowed into the restricted area. Waters then noticed the men wearing yellow hazard suits milling around behind the trio, that they were blocking his path. Waters, angered at being denied access to his own property, demanded that they let him pass, and that's when these so-called agents got down to brass tacks. According to Waters, the agents proceeded to inform him that if he did not follow their instructions, he would be falsely accused and arrested for concealing a meth lab on his land. It is presumable that the evidence of this lab would have been manufactured if necessary. It goes without saying that the military officers from the area wholeheartedly deny such allegations.
Have you ever thought of winding it all back up again?
Well, when I let out the first 1,500 yards of line, I reeled all of that back in.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if I had hit water down there, because I thought that's a lot of feet.
You bet.
That's 4,500 feet of line. Did I hit water? So what I did is I sent down a roll of lifesavers.
Lifesavers?
Yeah, so when it hits the water, the lifesavers will dissolve.
That's true. Oh, I see. So very smart. So
yeah, it's an old shark fisherman's trick there. We used to send our bait out on a balloon attached to a roll of lifesavers, and the bait would go out into the ocean on the tide.
Yeah.
And then eventually the lifesavers would melt, and the bait would fall to the bottom. You couldn't cast a big old mackerel out there that far. So
that's amazing. So, what do you got any guesses?
I don't. I have no idea. I thought it could have been a mine shaft, but the thing about it is the surface part of it's been very well cared for. I mean, someone built a very lovely wall around it.
Now, after these officers were talking to him, and regardless of the veracity of Waters' statements, the latter claimed that following this threat, the agents then made an even stranger and exceedingly lucrative offer. If Waters agreed to lease the government his property into perpetuity, he would be giving a hefty monthly stipend of $250,000 to live off. There was just one caveat. He had to leave the country immediately. Waters, whose marriage was ending badly, decided against bucking the system and accepted the offer. A lover of wildlife, Waters used the generous leasing fees he had acquired to start a wombat rescue operation, and for the next 2 years he would live fairly content life in Australia. As satisfied as he was down under, Waters finally became overwhelmed by homesickness, and as December 2000, he boarded a plane and, against specific orders from still unknown representatives of the government, returned to the States. Once there, things would take a frightening turn. First off, his liberal leasing fees were immediately cut off, indicating to Waters that he had been under constant surveillance. Secondly, while riding on a bus to Olympia, Washington, soon after the plane touched ground in America, Waters testified that he witnessed a dispute between a fellow passenger and a police officer. The officers allegedly removed Waters from the bus under the pretense that he had to sign a police statement confirming what he had seen. That would be the last thing that he would remember for almost 2 weeks. Waters said that he had been physically beaten and that his rear molars had been extracted during the blackout. As if all of this weren't crazy enough to send conspiracy theorist into a tizzy, Waters further claimed that he had an IV track on his arm. This convinced him that he had been drugged by the police, more likely than not the government, agents dressed as police. As if life weren't already enough of a tailspin, Waters soon found out that not only had his stipend been suspended, but that all of his assets had been frozen and that his Australian rescue facility dismantled. Perplexed and fearing for his own life, Waters phoned his nephew, who wired him through enough cash to take a bus back to Monastash Bridge. Once back on his property, Waters was served with legal documents by what he referred to as the Men in Black types, who indicated that his ownership of the land was in question due to modifications that had been made to the property and that the government would officially be taking control of the land.
And
all right, tell me about the nature of the side of the walls. In other words, you must be able to look down far enough at least to examine the side of the walls.
Sure. It's stone for about 15 feet down.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's soil, dirt, and then further down rock. So but I can only see to the extent of really powerful flashlight. I've brought halogen lights out there to try to get a better look down there, but the visibility really isn't there. You cannot see much after a while. But it's a retaining wall. I'd say it's about a 3.5 foot retaining wall.
Quick shout out to Cody Pendant in the chat, $10 donations through Streamlabs. A tip on behalf of those whose health is upheld by the great work of the doctor. Cheers, Davey. I appreciate that so much, buddy. Anybody that's been donating and showing a little support, it's so helpful in this time, and I truly, truly appreciate it, guys.
And it goes down about 15 feet, and then it's...
Well, I'll tell you this much. No matter how powerful a light, and I was even thinking about a laser, when you're talking about 80,000 feet, forget it.
No. Well, they should have some technology that can give me an idea of how deep this thing is. I mean, obviously, the old fishing line method is only going to go so far.
What we need here is a volunteer. Real, I'm serious. Somebody who would be willing to be lowered into this hole.
Well, I don't. To be honest with you, I don't even know if there's any air down that far. I mean,
I wouldn't know about that either.
Or what kind of pressures we're dealing with. These are things that are totally beyond my grasp in terms of knowledge about these things. But
do you own this property?
It's our property, yeah.
How long have you been working on this?
Well, we've been out there for a couple of years. I said about 4 years now. But this project here with letting down the line, that's only been since last summer here. And it was just, I said, well, how come this thing isn't filling up?
Well, sure.
And I talked to the neighbors around there, which are, when you're out there in the country, your neighbors are pretty far away, but they all know the hole out there.
They all know about it, so it's
because they all bring their trash out there.
So the local legend of the hole.
Yeah, this could be an apocryphal story, but one guy claims that he threw his departed canine down into the hole.
Oh, really?
And the story is the guy that did it swears the dog actually came back to him, and he was
really.
He was a hunt. The story is that he was a hunter, and he was out there hunting, and he saw the same dog. He had the same collar. He had the same little little metal thing on his collar there, and he said it was the same dog. And he says he knew he threw the dog into the hole. But that's not my dog. That's not my.
It's not your story, but it's a story of a resurrected dog.
Yeah. This is as you can well imagine, this is all. Native American land around here, and so one of the lines of inquiries I'd like to make is, is there anything about this hole in regards to the Native Americans? That's something I haven't really pursued right now. But
if you had a fatal disease, Mel, would you jump in the hole?
I would.
You would?
It's
based on the dog story?
It is in my will.
What?
Should I meet my demise?
that you would be thrown in the hole?
Disposed of into the well.
I'm not sure the health department would allow that.
Well, one of the things that I thought about later on is, what if this is like contaminating our water, And, we've had, I'm sure you do this out there in Pahrump, too.
Well,
you have your water checked all the time.
Well, yeah, no personal offense to you, Mel, but if there was a possible contamination problem, I'm sure you're a clean guy.
Yeah.
But, as you deteriorated, you would possibly produce E. coli or something horrible in the local water supply.
Well, again, so far it hasn't.
If you weren't resurrected.
I mean, the water around that area is absolutely pure water. It is,
And so nothing thrown down, all the old junk and trash, and nothing has polluted the water.
No, I mean, I can't speak for everything that's been thrown down there, but none of that has been showing up in the water that people draw from their wells. I mean, the water's as clean as it's ever been out there. I think we get water that comes off the Cascades or something.
Yeah.
It's just really great. It's really wonderful water.
Mel, you wouldn't be pulling my leg.
No, I'm not. And I'm one of the reasons that I went out to the property tonight, other than it just it's something that weighs heavily on my mind. I was afraid that after I sent the fax out, that there would be people around there, because it's...
Well, there may be, but we have not identified specifically where it is.
Well,
to be linked to creation.
There aren't, as far as I could tell, too many big holes like that around, and so at least the people in my neck of the woods are familiar with it, and I kind of almost expected to see a small party of people.
Well, there may be. Now, I mean, come daylight, there may be, but...
Now, one of the ideas he had, because there was so much talk, people were calling it government conspiracy, there was people around, people were wondering, he tried lowering a bucket of ice and lowered it into the hole at about a depth of 1,500 feet, after which it would be brought up to find out that the ice was warm to the touch, yet had not yet melted. What's more, the ice seemed to have changed into a type of flammable substance. Perplexed, Waters moved on to a live test subject, this time having a sheep lowered down into the hole inside a wooden crate. It was apparently quite a time trying to get the animal anywhere near the hole, as it was overcome with a profound panic. But what's really strange is what supposedly happened next. As with the ice, the sheep was lowered to 1,500 feet, shrieking, screaming, bucking, and kicking the whole way until it abruptly went silent. At this point, the metallic surface of the pit was said to have begin to hum and vibrate ominously. And after fleeing the scene for some time, Waters and his crew were finally able to hoist the sheep back up, after which it was found to have been gruesomely cooked on the inside by some unknown force. In addition, an anomalous tumor was purportedly found on the sheep, which seemed to be moving, in which they went and cut open to see what was going on. It was a decision they would soon regret. As soon as the tumor had been cut open, something quite horrifying was regurgitated forth from the sheep's carcass, which was described as looking like a fetal seal, which stared at them for some time with intelligent, human-like eyes before jumping into the murky depths of the hole. Waters and company, shocked and disgusted by what they had seen, wasted no time in tossing the dead sheep in after it would to sail down through the bottomless abyss. To make this all the more surreal, Waters would credit the creature with curing a cancer he had, and even claim that it would regularly visit the local sheep herders after that, who described it as being a benevolent presence. After this incident, there was also seen various brightly colored birds loitering about the hole that were supposedly impervious to bullets, and a few instances of what Waters called a black beam emanating from the hole, which he described as looking like if you had a flashlight and it was capable of throwing up solid black. Now, the one last little story about Mel's Hole, and like I said, there is a total of 5 calls with this thing. So there's a big deep dive you can go into it, but I'm not going to play you guys the whole Art Bell interview, as if there's 5 parts, literally like 6 hours of stuff. Others also assert that temperatures inside the Earth at the depths that Waters claimed to have dropped his lead weight are in excess of 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit, which of course would melt fishing lines. So, oh no way you could have, not accounting all the anomalies. Now, others think this is a base for underground reptilians. He insists nowadays it's covered by a nondescript shack-like structure which conceals the orifice. Unlike most believers, however, Red Elk asserts that this may be a underground base for what some people might be called reptilian humanoids, as if we've heard stories of them underground before. And we will be getting into a story about a man named Philip Schneider not too shortly. So let me just organize my links here. I'm going to come in the chat in a second and see how you guys are doing. Just want to make sure I have my next link ready for we got Mel's Hole here. What's really happening at Dulce Air Force Base? The details surrounding the supposed Dulce Air Base wars prima facie might seem absurd or the product of an eccentric imagination. Examining the myriad of testimonies, however, especially those of local residents, reveals undeniable evidence of strange occurrences. The secret subterranean military base on Mount Archuleta on the Colorado-New Mexico border is a highly classified, almost like Area 51. It was allegedly inhabited by a battalion of gray aliens conducting depraved experiments on humans under the auspices of the U.S. military. Eventually, paranoia and tensions ran high, resulting in a deadly firefight that exposed Dulce Base Level 7. What, if any, proof corroborates this story is the accounts of whistleblowers who supposedly worked there. And what about the state trooper who found a humanoid species and a mutilated cattle carcass resting in a field nearby?
Sustain their continued evolution to maintain being alive. They have had to adapt. They have had to adapt by becoming a hybrid of technology and their biological makeup to continue on. And that's why I think it's another reason why you're seeing a lot of advancements in robotics with like Boston Dynamics, artificial intelligence.
Now, the Dulce Air Force Base Wars. Philip Schneider, one of the more notable names in the Dulce Air Force Base stories, allegedly worked as a geological engineer contracting for the government and its construction of a program known as DUM, Deep Underground Military Bases. According to Schneider, this system of bases spans from the continental U.S. all over, with over 100 interconnected subterranean tunnels. Within Dulce's base 7 levels, Schneider's had clearance to construct a system of tunnels under Secret Service supervision. One day while digging, he and his colleagues experienced technical difficulties, and in an attempt to fix the problem, were encountered by gray aliens.
did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilians, the whole thing. There are 11 distinct races of aliens. 2 are benevolent. 1 had to leave here in a hurry because their world is under attack, both on the surface as well as underground. There, the Pleiadians. They're familiar. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. Would some of you raise your hands who've heard of Billy Meyer and some of the, very good, about half the group. Well, Billy Meyer is one of these lucky people that they figured, well, he's kind of a simple type, we'll show him everything. Well, these are the benevolent aliens, and they've been here helping us. In fact, I have a picture, let me reach for it here. I have a picture of one of the aliens been working for the United States Pentagon for the last 58 years. His name is Val Valiant Thor. He's right here. There's my father in the background. This whole place, the ready room of the USS Eldridge, Al Bielek has probably explained, or maybe even shown you this picture. There's a list of some of the notable people in it. They're all the atomic bomb scientists of the day, all the time variant experimentalists of the day, all the top physicists of that particular day. This was in August of 1943. Now this guy has not changed one iota in 58 years. Started work, he came here, crashed here or whatever, whether he's under duress or not. He started work for our U.S. Navy and military operations in 1937, either 37 or 38 is what I've been told. So it's for 58 years, this man's been employed, probably under duress. If you don't do as we say, we're just going to use you for alien bait or something, I don't know. But anyway, he basically hasn't changed. He lives for 490 years, is what he says his lifespan is. Now, he was supposedly a semi-benevolent, he's a human-looking type person. He has 6 fingers and 6 toes, and he's got one oversized heart, 1 lung, giant lung. His blood vessels are bigger. He's got copper oxide for blood, similar to an octopus. Another thing I want to reach to you is that during the unbelievable part, I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. Then to the southwest of that, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. Number of the original wells or drilling machines that were used were at the rate of 2 miles a day. It was fairly rapid. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down, we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up, the gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda. I'll explain that in a few minutes. The large alien grays had been encamped there for, as best as believed possible, about 400 or 500 years. It had been one of their internal bases. And we drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up, and well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build a underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you build called stopes or cross-member holes across, and then you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person was the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This was in late August of 1979. Now, you got a regular suit of clothes, you got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot, burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember is the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied to not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilians, the whole thing. There are 11 distinct races of aliens. 2 are benevolent. 1 had to leave here in a hurry because their world is under attack, both on the surface as well as underground. There, the Pleiadians. They're familiar. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. Would some of you raise your hands who've heard of Billy Meyer and some of the, very good, about half the group.
So that is the famous story of Phil Snyder and his underground alien attack. Now, what do we believe about underground? What do we believe about Hollow Earth? Well, you have Admiral Byrd, Hollow Earth Expedition. This was between the time of the Great Depression and World War II, as Admiral Richard Byrd of the U.S. Navy pioneered further exploration of the poles. And after a multitude of trips, the Arctic territories, there is one Byrd narrative that sticks out more than the rest, his record-setting flight over the North Pole. Now, according to his diary, written during this polar flight, Byrd came across a warm, lush climate with mammoth-like creatures and an ancient human. His plane was commandeered midair and landed for him by people in the center of the Earth, who intercepted his plane with saucer-shaped aircraft upon landing. He was met by emissaries of the civilization many assumed to be the mythical Agartha. These alleged Agarthans expressed their concern about humanity's use of the atomic bombs during World War II and employed Byrd as their ambassador to return to the government and relay their sentiment. We also have the German SS. Other speculation regarding Byrd's supposed search for Agartha notes a German presence in Arctic territory, both north and south. It is well documented that the German explored Arctic regions to set up bases and test naval weaponry. But it is also well documented that Hitler and the Germans were obsessed with the esoteric, and the occult. The rabbit hole goes deep here, with some going so far to posit that Hitler could have escaped to the underground world, though that might be counterintuitive if an ancient enlightened society resided down there. German maps revealed to the instructions for reaching Agartha, and they have been corroborated by a letter from the German U-boat navigator Karl Unger, who claims U-209 made it to Agartha and the Earth is in fact hollow. And you can see these old transcripts, blueprints that they had. Let me see if I can blow this up and read it for you guys. So this is just a detailed way on how to get to the center of the Earth. And they have been corroborated by other German soldiers. They say Agartha is the proof in ancient cultures who all believed in some kind of theory of there being Earth underneath the Earth with its own sun. There's many subterranean civilizations, ancient civilizations.
June 13th, 2014. Scientists researching the Earth's mantle announce that they have found what they believe to be a vast body of water, 3 times the volume of all of our oceans combined, contained within a mineral layer 400 miles inside the Earth. The discovery shakes the foundation of what scientists and scholars thought they knew about the ground under our feet.
We have just scratched the surface of the Earth.
Now, some of the scientific basis is one of the first persons who scientifically speculate about it would be a man named Edmund Halley, and that would be Halley's Comet. He proposed this in 1692 as a way of explaining anomalous compass readings. Halley's theory is that the planet is a series of nested spherical shells spinning in different directions, all surrounding a central core. In his estimation, based on readings of magnetic fields and what we knew of the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon, this model could account for the inaccuracies in the readings of magnetic fields of the planet. And if you ever look on Google Maps, you notice these weird convexes at the top where our Earth's concades in. I'm sure you guys have seen these before.
We drilled down like 8 miles and we had to stop because it got too hot. Out of 4,000 miles, basically to the core of the Earth, we went down 8. That's nothing.
We have more than 70 active space programs right now. We can tell you more about the surface of the moon than we can the surface underneath our own oceans.
Since we have not actually drilled down far enough to confirm these findings, could it be that we may be wrong about the composition of our own Earth? Some ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest that according to our earliest mythologies, an other Earth might not be found in the heavens, but deep within our own planet.
One of the most
That is always a famous picture that they have from inside the earth. They say it contains its own sun, abundance of plants and life, and races of beings that just hang it out down there.
I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral,
Yeah.
would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old slow planes and the small cruising radius where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams, and of course that was a big improvement. But now the planes go much faster and they are safer, and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
That is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia, but why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important,
tribes, Tibetan shamans, and the Occult Thule Society, Nazis were convinced the possibility was worth investigating. They declared part of Antarctica Nazi territory and named it New Swabia. If the Earth did prove to be hollow, the Nazis planned to locate Allied ships by shooting infrared waves through the Earth to England. If the interior of the Earth was, as they believed, both hollow and inhabited, the Nazis planned to contact these inhabitants and gather their support in the war on the surface world. The isolated location provided a perfect backdrop for other, more sinister experiments: submarine technology, invisible aircraft, nuclear power. I hear the British and US military may have even sent fleets of ships down to stop the Nazi activities in Antarctica in an operation called High Jump. While this Project High Jump was officially listed as a reconnaissance mission, questions linger regarding the mysterious deaths of people involved. Many researchers believe the Nazis maintained a secret submarine and aircraft base. Several Hollow Earth researchers believe the Nazis never found the entrance, but instead stumbled upon technology from the subterranean world and reverse engineered.
They were still years away. So who or what was Byrd talking about that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds in the time immediately following his expedition? For a long time, there has been a so-called Admiral Byrd secret diary floating around. The diary told of a flight on February 19, 1947, but over the Arctic, not the Antarctic. Since he was known to be at the South Pole instead of the North Pole at this time, this would be an impossibility. Unless you look at it another way and consider the theory that he managed to travel between the poles assisted, or more likely due in part to alien technology. The flight diary entry from that day reads as follows. We are crossing over the small mountain range and still proceeding northward as best as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the center portion. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests grown on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. I alter altitude to 1,400 feet and execute a sharp left turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or a type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. Encountering more rolling green hills now. The external temperature indicator reads 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Continuing on our heading. Navigation instruments seem normal now. I am puzzled over their actions. Attempt to contact base camp. Radio is not functioning. Countryside below is more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God, off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. Our radio crackles and a voice comes through in English with perhaps a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is, Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral. You are in good hands. I note the engines of our plane have stopped running. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless. Another radio message received. We begin the landing process now, and in moments the plane shudders slightly and begins a descent as though caught in some great unseen elevator. The downward motion is negligible, and we touch down with only a slight jolt. I am making a hasty last entry in the flight log. Several men are approaching on foot toward our aircraft. They are tall with blonde hair. In the distance is a large, shimmering city pulsating with rainbow hues of color. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on these approaching. I hear now a voice ordering me by name to open the cargo door. I comply. At this point, the diary tells of meeting with an alien class known as the Arianes, which sounds a little bit too close to Aryan for my comfort level. The diary entry continues with Byrd apparently talking with someone deemed the Master. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity, but now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science is many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral. I interrupted. But what does this have to do with me, sir? The master's eyes seemed to penetrate deeply into my mind, and after studying me for a few moments, he replied, "Your race has now reached the point of no return, for there are those among you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish their power as they know it." He concluded a short time later by apparently saying, "We see at a great distance a new world stirring from the ruins of your race, seeking its lost and legendary treasures. And they will be here, my son, safe in our keeping. When that time arrives, we shall come forward again to help revive your culture and your race."
The story of Admiral Byrd and his descent into the inner earth and all the crazy shit that he saw in there. We've heard this story before. We may have touched on it in the Antarctica stream, but it's one of my favorites. So we did a first hour until we got cut out, and this one has gone for about an hour, and I'm going to put those two together and edit it after the fact and make it its standalone video. We're going to be wrapping up here. So that was pretty much the Spooky Sunday on the underground, inner earth. Hopefully the stories were fun, entertaining, and something you guys can enjoy. How's everybody doing? Yeah, we had about 200 before we the first stream shit the bed, and then about 170 people made their way back. So not bad. That's pretty good. Appreciate you guys all coming out for these Spooky Sundays. Oh, thanks, Andy. Yeah, some of us just need something to get away from the daily doom and gloom. So every Sunday, and then some other nights we just do random podcasts or shows throughout the week on this channel. So we try to keep it light. We try to find cool, like old conspiratorial stuff. Just to have a fun time. So I really do appreciate you guys all coming here. In the description to this video is a Discord link. Click that Discord link, and in the Discord there's a folder called Spooky Sundays. If you have ideas, if you have topics you would like to see, just put them in there, tag me, and they can go on the other list of ideas that I have, and we pick a new one each week. So, if yours is in there and everyone likes it, then we'll definitely choose that for one of these weeks. Shout out to Feta Kings for the template that he made for this. I really enjoy that. I'm going to tweak a couple things, but I really like it. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. If anybody wants to support what we're doing in general, overall, throw a couple dollars in the pot. You can do so through Streamlabs or PayPal, on air or off air. And it's always appreciated, never expected. And yeah, guys, just really thank you. Hope you guys go get a good night's sleep. I hope you wake up and it's not a complete chaotic hellhole in your neighborhood. I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out for yet another Spooky Sunday. I'm your host, Dr. Crocko. And as always, I will see you in the next one.